Shalom, shalom. This week's Parsha is Parshat Bamidbar, and it begins with God commanding Moshe to take a census to count the members of Israel. And Rashi very famously says, why does God tell Moshe to count? It's out of love. And he recalls that God counts the nation 3 times at the Exodus, after the sin of the golden calf, and here. And he says it's because of the great love for the people that he counts them, just as anybody, it's like people who love their money, they will count to see exactly how much they have more than once. And the same thing here too with God. And I think that people misunderstand that way, that, God loves us so he counts us. But there's 2 problems with just understanding it on that very base level. And the first problem is God is all-knowing. He knows exactly how many people there are. Not only how many people there are, he knows exactly how many strands of hair on their head, and I can go into greater detail, cells in the body, everything. God knows. He doesn't need to count or have Moshe count for him. Also, to say that it's because God loves him in these 3 places he counts, God always loves the nation. Why isn't he constantly counting it every second, every time he loves? God's feelings have not changed based on what they did, and you can say, well, maybe there was they're on a greater level, and so God was feeling specific love and wants to count them. But we see that it can't be because of a high level, because the first time he counts them when they leave, at the Exodus, we know they're on the lowest level, and when they commit the sin of the golden calf, it's one of the worst sins according to the Torah, to make a false god and to worship it. So what does it mean out of the love for the people? And I think what it means specifically is that God is not counting them because he loves the people. He wants to recall how many exactly he has of these beloved people. No, I think because God loves the people, he understands and he wants to give to the people what they need when they really, really need it. And that is emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, they needed to know, not that God's counting them, but that they count. And at these specific junctures, when they left Egypt and they were slaves mentality, and they didn't know who they were, what their purpose was, God was saying, you count. Every single one of you counts. And the same thing, after the Chet HaEgel, what caused them to commit the sin of the golden calf? They had just had this great encounter with God before Moshe went up to the mountain, and they didn't think that they were worthy. They didn't think they were worthy of connecting one-on-one with God, and therefore it led them to need an intermediary and to serve something else. And God is saying after the sin, how many times do I have to tell you? You count as a person. You, every individual, count. Even after the sin, you can return to me. You can connect with me. You can be one with your own specific purpose and connection that nobody else has. And they didn't get it. They didn't get it at those 2 junctures. And now what's going on? They finished building the Mishkan. They're going to be traveling in the desert. And God really hones in on this to make the message much clearer this time in a way that they really need to know. Because why? God's presence is going to be traveling, unfortunately, in the Aron HaKodesh, because they forfeited that unique divine connection they could have constantly had themselves. So now they need to have it in their midst, in a place that they can physically see and connect. And each tribe, there are 3 tribes on each side, equidistant from the Mishkan that contained the Holy of Holies, and everybody was at the same distance, saying, you are all important, you can all connect with God, with the spiritual highest of highs, that I travel still within you, and you're all important on an equal level with my mission. Carrying the Aaron shows that they're carrying the mission of God, and that they're all equally important. That's why it says not only to count, it says, and it doesn't use the word count, for. It says to raise, uplift their heads, meaning they felt they weren't worthy. God's telling Moshe, you have to uplift each and every single one of them. And it doesn't just say to count them, it says count them by the names, by their names, names, essence. Have them, they each supposed to come in front of Moshe and Aaron and get a specific connection and to understand that they matter. A bracha only pertains to their name, their essence, who they are and what they're supposed to do, and that Moshe had this job to make them all understand that they matter, themselves, not just as a number, but by their name, by who they are. And then God places them, they're encamped, each one gets a leader for guidance, because obviously they needed guidance. They felt low. They couldn't do it on themselves. This is a way people need guidance. So each tribe had a very strong spiritual leader at the head of them. And then the only people that weren't equidistant from the Mishkan and the Aron HaKodesh itself was the Leviim and the Kohanim, who were there also for guidance to bring them closer to their purpose in service of God. And so they're all given these very distinct messages of to be proud. You count. You have a specific name with a specific purpose. You're of this tribe with this flag. Each one had their own flag for pride to who you are, where you came from, what you have to give. And this was a lesson that needed to be imparted now, not just by accounting, but by all this physical display, all this work, all this setup, so that they can really inculcate it as they're traveling to the desert to understand this message. And hopefully with all of this, with all of these signs, that they would get it. They would understand that they are all needed. They are all encircled around God, equidistant, because each one is important, equally important in their own right for whatever their purpose is in this game of life, and in this journey through the wilderness, which is so symbolic, journey through the wilderness until we can get to the promised land. That's what we're all trying to do. We're all trying to find ourselves, and if we've found ourselves, to totally maximize our potential in helping others and doing our part, until we can make it all work together, until we get to the promised land where we're supposed to be going. It's just Israel, but Israel and in the right way that it's supposed to be. And may God bring peace to us soon. Amen. Shabbat Shalom.